The San Francisco Bay is one of the toughest places on Earth to swim, due to its freezing cold temperatures, rough currents, and extreme wildlife, including great white sharks. It makes the perfect place to house one of the most infamous prisons in history, Alcatraz. However, while many open water swimmers tend to opt for warmer water, Amy Appelhans Gubser, a 55-year-old local swimmer, chose to attempt a feat that's never been done in history. Located nearly 30 miles off the San Francisco Bay sit the Farallon Islands, a wildlife sanctuary that's uninhabited by humans, but under the water sits some of the most deadly sharks in all of the world. The native Indians of the San Francisco Bay Area, the Miwok tribe, knew these islands as the Islands of the Dead, known for the mysterious allure and thought to be where dead spirits lived. But Amy, she didn't listen to all the noise. In fact, she wanted to become the first swimmer to ever swim from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Farallon Islands, a 29.7-mile swim that's never been accomplished in history by any other swimmer. As a San Francisco native, I knew this was a story that I needed to cover, and this was something that was happening right in my backyard. So I took a short walk down to the South End Club, located in San Francisco's Aquatic Cove, to find out who is Amy Appelhans Gubser. Amy Appelhans Gubser is a nurse at the UCSF hospitals here in San Francisco, but in the early morning hours before her shifts, you can find her at Aquatic Cove, a local swim spot home to some of the most famous open water swimming clubs in the world, including her home club, the South End Club. Here is where Amy trains for hours every week in some of the coldest water temperatures on Earth, preparing to attempt the impossible. Due to San Francisco's cold water temperature and rough currents, swimming to the Farallon Islands was a feat that was once thought to be impossible by many swimmers. Only 5 swimmers in recorded history have ever attempted this swim, all of them starting at the Farallon Islands and swimming inwards to San Francisco, using the tide and the current to their advantage, swimming from colder to warmer waters. But Amy wanted to swim against the currents and become the first swimmer ever to swim from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Farallon Islands. During her 17-hour and 3-minute swim, she was surrounded by sharks and jellyfish and burned an estimated 10,000 calories, all while swimming farther than marathon runners run at an estimated 30 miles in distance. But I wanted to know what inspired Amy to do this swim and learn a little bit more about the history of the Farallon Islands from Amy herself.
I've always been around the water, and ever since I was a little child, I've always engaged in the water of all sorts. And I was an ocean lifeguard through college. I worked down in the Southern California beaches. So being a beach guard, I was always in the ocean. Loved body surfing, all of that. And got back into the water for actual swimming 24 years after I stopped swimming in college. And it was when my daughter was graduating high school, and I knew I had to do something for me. And I thought it would be the most absolutely awesome, crazy thing to make my kids proud, but also do something really important for myself. So the Farallon Islands are 30 miles off the coast of San Francisco, just shy of 30 miles. And they're not visible on a regular basis. So actually, most San Franciscans and or visitors that come to the area have no idea we have these islands right off our coastline. But when they appear on the horizon, they're eerie, mysterious, and intriguing, and that's exactly what drew me to the islands. I see them from my home down in Pacifica, and I just look out there, and on a nice calm day, I know I could swim there. I just would tell my husband, I know I could do it, and he would laugh because he knows as well that I could just do it. But the history of the Farallon Islands is actually very unique and special. They were the most important waypoint for mariners. And actually, the indigenous Ohlone Indians referred to them as the Islands of the Dead. They were terrified of the islands. They would never set foot on them. They respected them, but they thought that they were very mysterious and eerie as well. But the ancient mariners that came here, from the late 1700s through the gold rush era, used the Farallon Islands as waypoints to stop at, but there were so many shipwrecks out there because it's actually very jagged and kind of very difficult waters. So they have a long history of kind of being a difficult island. They're referred to by the mariners as the Devil's Teeth. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting background there, but that's exactly what drew me to it.
National Geographic estimated that there's over 250 plus great white sharks in the San Francisco Bay alone. But Amy, in the open waters, was facing all of the elements of the Pacific Ocean. To put this swim into context, 37% of the world's shark attacks happen off of the coast of California, making this swim one of the most dangerous in all of the world. With freezing cold water temperatures, inexperienced swimmers would experience hypothermia in less than an hour. It is for this reason that one of the most notorious prisons in history, Alcatraz, is placed right exactly in the middle of the San Francisco Bay. But Amy's swim goes far beyond the bay, and instead of swimming towards San Francisco, she chose to swim away from it, into the open ocean.
So, with my approach to my Farallon swim, I went the opposite way. And some argue it's a more difficult way, but that was the way that I saw this swim. I had to capitalize on what my assets are, and I'm really good in cold water. I've challenged myself over the last 5 years, making sure I'm ready for this. But honestly, the approach to the island, who swims toward a shark island? So it took a lot to prepare for. And I really think that using my ability to tolerate colder water as we went toward the islands was kind of how I had to capitalize on it. The other swimmers that went the other direction were faster, and so for them to nail the current was a little bit easier than for me to calculate it. I will say, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around swimming in an area where you know there's sharks. It's not that you suspect there's sharks. They're there. They live there. That's their inhabited area. They are not infesting the area I was infesting. But it's really kind of important to understand their migratory patterns so that we can do the swim on a safe timeline. Because honestly, if I went in October, that wouldn't have been as easy.
So May is the right time frame, is that?
Yeah. That's typically when the younger sharks will migrate.
Okay.
And they kind of find other areas. They go all the way over to Hawaii. They go down to Mexico, Southern California. Probably one of the ones that goes out to the Farallons was responsible for that issue down at Del Mar.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there are sharks.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I don't swim in a wetsuit, I think gives me a little bit of an advantage because I'm more identifiable as something that's different. But you know, I had to take all those things into consideration. The jellyfish also are a real big problem. They're sea nettles, and there were big ones, and I could not see them until they were on my face. So I would frequently have to peel them off and throw them. But thank goodness I only really got wrapped about 20 times.
Oh my. 20.
But I've had other swims where I've had way worse jellyfish. So this
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
But honestly, like, I've been preparing for 5 years to do this adventure, and it's not taken lightly. Like, I had to educate myself on currents, tides, weather systems. I had to really ensure that I had the proper team that knew how to help me, because we hit this water that was unprecedentedly cold. I was not ready for, and it was nuts. I did worry that if it was going to be a little longer, that I don't know if I could have made that.
Yeah.
But the tide shifted and the water warmed up, and it was literally went from 43 to 50.
Wow.
That was Amy.
That's all you needed.
That's all I needed.
While Amy's Farallon Island swim might be one of the craziest feats in open water history, when I went down to the South End Club, she was encouraging all of her teammates to do it with her next time. Next time. There's a rich tradition of open water swimming in the San Francisco Bay, dating all the way back to the California Gold Rush. And being a local, I knew this was a story that I needed to tell. Home to the South End Club and the Dolphin Club sitting in Aquatic Cove in San Francisco, both of these clubs are over 150 years old and are home to some of the craziest swimmers in the world. They have a tradition of not allowing swimmers to wear wetsuits in the freezing cold waters, calling it skins only, something that I got to actually experience firsthand when I went and took a dip in the Aquatic Cove with Amy. But rather than tell you about the history of the clubs, I wanted Amy to tell you guys herself.
So both the Dolphin Club and the South End Club started over 150 years ago. You're absolutely correct. And they've actually moved to different parts of the city as the city kind of developed and landed here. This is actually part of National Park area. So Hyde Street Pier and Aquatic Park is all part of the National Recreation Area, Golden Gate National Recreation Area.
Okay.
So these buildings were put in here many, many years ago, and we actually rent them from national parks and the city of San Francisco to be able to use these facilities. And they were built to support our endeavors. So for the rowers, we have these big warehouses to store all our boats. And we have a big apron area to mount our boats with the piers. And then for the swimming, that just kind of evolved. There's always been swimmers, but now our swim community in both clubs is extremely robust and very sustainable. Like, we have young swimmers, older swimmers, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of mentoring back and forth, and we have a healthy competition, because although we compete and kind of have this like one up against each other, we also celebrate each other. So, you know, it's kind of a healthy way to support all of our crazy.
Despite living in San Francisco and being immersed in the swimming community, open water swimming is something I've definitely strayed away from over the course of my career, mostly due to my fear of sharks and other aquatic life. After I interviewed Amy on that freezing cold morning in San Francisco, she convinced me to get in Aquatic Cove for a quick little swim, where she taught me about the rich history of the San Francisco Bay and the open water swimming community. Sadly, I didn't get it on video. I wish I did. Maybe next time. But swimming in the San Francisco Bay was actually a huge fear that was accomplished for me. And now there's a challenge out there that seems a little bit more attainable to me. It's no 30-mile swim to the Farallon Islands, but the Alcatraz swim now seems within my reach. So if this video gets 1,000 likes, I will go do the Alcatraz swim next year and document all of it for you guys. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you make sure to not miss that video and all of the other great swimming stories that I tell here on my channel. And with that said, I'll see you guys all next week.